But now you have developers that are saying, I don't need designers at all, right? I can cut that out. You have designers saying the same thing. I don't need developers at all. I can cut that out, right? And it reminds me of, and this is the true essence of a tangent. Like, I'm on a tangent right now and I'm very scatterbrained, but it reminds me of the relationship between a musical artist and a musical producer. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Office Hour Tangents, where I kind of want to talk about that today. This will be my 30th episode, and I just kind of wanted to talk about, I wanted to start off by talking about like why I even do this thing, but also I do have a topic and I do have a tangent I want to go off on. But when I was thinking about these topics, it's just like, do the people watching this know why I'm even doing this, right? So I just wanted to kind of touch on the why before I went on to another topic, okay? But the topic I want to go off that I'm going to touch upon today has to do with the relationship between creators and developers, right? So this is actually a tangent that didn't come straight from class. So, of course, I'm not dressed like I'm being a professor today. But I was in a coffee shop, and a lot of times we're talking about some interesting things in the coffee shop. There's a guy that works in the coffee shop, and he's about to graduate and to become a developer. He's like in a computer science program, and we talk about things back and forth often. And I often talk about the relationship between a designer and a developer. So to rewind, back in 2001, when I joined Nationwide Insurance as a designer. So graduated in 2000. We graduated December 99. Kind of just wallowed out there for a year trying to find a job as a graphic designer. Really couldn't find one. And at the time, the web was popping. So this is 2000. This is 99, 2000. This is like in the middle of the .com boom. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but I was in the middle of the boom. So in order to kind of get into the industry that I wanted to get into, which was design, but I didn't know that much about design. My degree said architectural studies, but I was trying to get into design, something I just found out about. And at the time, nobody was really hiring. Everything I was looking at, it was like, yeah, we're looking for people with art and design skills, but web design a plus or a must or a nice to have. And that's why I kind of went into web design, to just add more tools to my tool belt. And that's how I got my job at Nationwide Insurance. So at Nationwide Insurance, I was a designer, and I was on a team, right? So the team consisted of designers, usability experts, and developers, right? It was called the Finish team back in the day. And then it changed to the design and usability team. And then it changed to the usability and design team. So that kind of started touching upon, or kind of informing me as to how at least this organization, Nationwide Insurance, valued this trend that's happening. It's like, this is the beginning of the .com boom. It felt very much like what we're in now at the beginning of whatever this is going to be called, right? With AI and technology and quantum computing and all this stuff, right? So as time went on, and as my design chops, my web design chops increased, and also my coding skills increased, we started seeing a shift. So within that team, just to give you some context, what ended up becoming the usability and design team, within that team, within Nationwide, is almost like a design firm within Nationwide Insurance, this big Fortune 200 company. And it was like a little team inside that kind of provided design services for the various entities within the company, right? So there's a little design firm within the company. We never did any kind of projects for anything outside of Nationwide, just to kind of paint the picture. So getting back to the topic, the relationship between designer and let's start with designer and developer, right? And I feel like that relationship is altering now, because back in the day, the developers couldn't do what we did as designers, and us designers could not do what developers did, right? So everybody had their value. And then usability experts in the middle, nobody could do what they did. That's what they studied. But you always had somebody like me that, okay, I wanted to design the stuff and I wanted to build it because I didn't have the resources. And, you know, as a designer, you kind of want things to be exactly how you want it. And I wanted to kind of learn code so I could design it and then code it. But right, so I could always get to the point where I could code. I could do front end coding, HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript at the time, a lot of it of Flash. But, you know, the developers could always code circles around me, right? And their code was just better, right? But I could do it enough so I didn't have the extra money to spend on a developer, right? Developers would do the same thing. But they couldn't design, but, you know, everybody thinks they're a designer. You know, that's how I talk about a lot. There's certain professions out there where I think everybody just thinks they can do just naturally. And I think one of those professions is designer. And so we had developers that they think they can design. So they were like, hey, I came up with the design and I developed it too. And it was usually terrible, like horrible, but it worked. So on that side, it's like, as long as it works, who cares what it looks like? And on our side, it was like, it's all about what it looks like. If it works, cool. And the people in the middle, the usability people, they just wanted it to work. You had to design it a certain way so it worked better, or you had to code it a certain way so it worked better, right? So they were the conduit. So what I'm seeing now is more the same, but just at an accelerated pace. Now with AI coding and AI basically doing all this stuff, and everybody's just kind of trying everything because nobody knows anything at this point. You have, and I'll call them designers, I'll call them creatives or whatever. They're thinking like, and it's something I've been praying for since day one. Like ever since I downloaded Macromedia Dreamweaver. And that was like the first tool I know of that was kind of like advertised as a tool for designers to help designers better create websites. They had some drag and drop functionality, and they had this kind of the design view is a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get application, where you can code and see actually what you're coding in real time, or you can kind of drag and drop into the design view and you can see the code is generating. That's actually how I learned code, right? But now you have developers that are saying, I don't need designers at all, right? I can cut that out. You have designers saying the same thing. I don't need developers at all. I can cut that out, right? And it reminds me of, and this is the true essence of a tangent. Like, I'm on a tangent right now and I'm very scatterbrained, but it reminds me of the relationship between a musical artist and a musical producer, right? And I see stuff happening. So I think AI, it could be seen by many producers as a producer's dream. Because they can produce. Producers like to produce. A lot of producers like to produce the entire song. They produce the beats, the tempo, everything. And then the only wild card a lot of times was the artist. The artist might show up late. They might want to sing the chords differently than how the producers had it. They might want to have a different hook than the producer came up with. And, they had to work together. And it was like something very, very human about working together to create something dope, right? And I'm thinking this technology that we're all using right now, and I very much believe that it's at the very, 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 very beginning stages still, and just a year from now, we're going to be looking back at now like, man, we were off base, or that looked like the Stone Age just a year ago. I just don't think I don't even think we're close to the tip of the iceberg with what we're kind of experiencing now. But going back to the artist producer analogy, for instance, Timbaland, one of the producers, he's a producer. He's a very innovative producer, and he's just started dabbling into the AI, having an AI artist. So now he can completely produce a song, an album, an experience, really without collaboration. And I think, and that's what I'm seeing, not completely, but I'm very much seeing more of that with this new technology. And it's just like any technology, you know, any calculator come out, it's less collaboration. The internet comes out, less collaboration. Smartphones come out, less collaboration, right? And now this new technology is coming out, and I'm seeing just less collaboration. So what took maybe a team of 5 to pull off, like an application where you need a couple designers, you need to usually be the expert, and a couple developers. Now teams are trying to pull that off with maybe 1 or 2 people, I would say. And it's just like who they're going to cut out. It just depends on who you have relationships or whatnot. But if you have a developer, I see it, well, not to get, now I'm getting ahead of myself. If you have a producer, Timbaland, Pharrell, Dr. Dre, Premier, you know I'm a hip hop head, so I'm naming all hip hop people. But Hit Boy, all that stuff, they can start producing and then have an AI artist perform the song exactly how they wanted it. They can tweak the voice. They can, whether it's a man or a woman, the style. They don't have to pay them, right? They don't have to pay the artist. And then they can just drop a Hit Boy album, or I can just drop a Timbaland album, just almost like a Dr. Dre Chronic album, where the Dr. Dre can produce the whole album, he can rap on it, and he can have like guest people rapping on it, but they're not actually human, right? He can just have a bunch of people that we never heard of. I remember in his Chronic 2001 album, there was this guy, this rapper on there named not 6'2", that was on the DLC's album, but I think it was a Height or something like that, and he was dope. And I never heard from him again, but he might have been AI. Like, if it was nowadays, that artist could have been AI. Dr. Dre could have had somebody. He could have had AI write the lyrics, actually rap the song, tied it to his production, and he just cut the artist out. On the flip side, I can also start seeing, and this is something that's always been done, right? Just think of Milli Vanilli. I just saw, you know, anything I see Milli Vanilli, I always watch it because I think it's so interesting. And right now, you know, Milli Vanilli could have been seen as the first AI artist, right? Even though there's no technology, not that much technology that basically lip synced for them, but it was some other artist that sang, and then Milli Vanilli lip synced it, lip sang it. I don't even know how you say that, and it worked. They won Grammys. I got millions of dollars. It worked. They just got caught because technology failed them, right? At a concert or at something, the DAT started looping and they panicked. They could have easily played it off, whatever. Everybody lip synced because they're singing, but they panicked and the story got out there and it messed things up. But CNC Music Factory, you know, I forgot which song, but yeah, that woman singing on their hit song, she's not singing. It's another woman singing. So it's kind of like that's going on. So a producer can start doing that without even hiring a human being. And it's one of those things, like, ethically you shouldn't do that. But when it comes to budgets or time or vision, people are going to do what's in their best interest, right? That's why we don't see a lot of groups anymore, because this is solo acts. Like, I just don't want to share anymore. I can sing every chord. I can sound like a group without being a group because of technology. And now a producer can have an artist that isn't really a human artist. An artist can produce a song that that's not produced by an actual producer. That's been happening a long time. You know, I have a friend of mine, he's a rapper, and he doesn't hire producers. He just goes off of, he goes on a website and gets the beats. And he just gets a beat and he uses the beat. Gets the beat for like $20, $70, whatever. And he raps over it and he can make a whole album. So this stuff has been happening. I just think the technology now allows people to have a little more control over things. So we have artists that don't need producers. We have producers that don't need artists. And I'm seeing that with technology, right? I'm seeing developers that don't need designers. I'm seeing designers that don't need developers. But what I'm also seeing is bad design, great development. Great design, bad development. I'm starting to see applications and just stuff out there that y'all can tell that hasn't really been tested a lot. They're just cutting out wherever they can cut out. And these are the people they're laying off, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not basing stats. I'm not researching before I'm talking. But when I see big giant layoffs at the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, and you kind of start to dabble and to see who's the one getting laid off, I'm just thinking of if it's a team of 5, 2 designers, 2 developers, 1 usability expert, for instance. And a lot of times just 1 designer, 2 usability experts, 2 developers, right? Or 2 testers, 2 developers. They're kind of, how can we cut fat, and who we're going to get rid of? And as a creative, you just get scared. Like, it just seems like the creative is the first one to get rid of because everybody thinks they're creative. It's one of those professions that we're in that everybody had art class. So if you had art class, you think you can create, right? Just like everybody had math class, but there was levels to this. You know, you had to get to, advanced math to be considered a mathematician. But I think with creativity, it was never one of those things like draw something or create something and it's like, that's terrible or that's wrong. It was never wrong. It was just like, that's art. That's your interpretation. It's beautiful. And you go through that for 12 years of your life, of your school life. And maybe when you get to college, it's like, okay, that's terrible. But, by now, everybody 18 years old, everybody thinks they have a little bit of creativity in them. It's just levels of this. So I think more people think they can design than you have designers that think they can code, right? So me as a designer, that I can front end code, but I've never had the skill set to do any back end coding, the SQLs, the PHPs, the Pythons. I started off coding C++ because I was a computer science major at first, and it reiterated the fact that I didn't want to do that. But I was C++. That's like heavy code, right? Anyway, back to the point. So I'm starting to see just this less collaboration because of technology, and that's just what technology does. And that's kind of like what we were kind of talking about in the coffee shop a little bit, and I just wanted to expound on it, that those of us, and this is just my conjecture, those of us that kind of keep that team, and I'm trying to cover up, anybody in that classroom. So this is a really active environment, right? There's a classroom right here. There's people walking by. It's like, I don't know, it's 2 in the afternoon. So those who still keep that spirit of collaboration, as they work with these new technological phenomenal tools, I think will excel in the end. But I see most people trying to go away from collaboration, to try to go away from teams. Like, shoot, I don't need to pay this guy, and this guy. I can just do it all myself and keep all the money and keep all the fame, or I can do it exactly how I wanted to do. Let's just ask AI how I can do it. And I'm just starting to see a lot of that. So it's almost like you don't see a lot of groups, at least in hip hop, and I'm just saying music in general, but you don't see a lot of groups in R&B and hip hop. And I'm starting to see like the same thing happening with creatives and people that are in technology as far as like coding and developing. I'm starting to see just less collaboration. And it's kind of scaring me, but I also see that in music. So what makes us human is teamwork, in my opinion. And this technology is very much designed to eschew teamwork. It really is. It's like, hey, open this application and do everything. Get your designs and then code your designs, and then you can put it up to this this platform, and then you can actually test what you designed on this platform. You can do it all yourself. And the thing is, You can do it all yourself. That's the thing. You can do it all yourself. And to somebody like me that likes to do things by themselves, it's perfect. But then what I've been seeing in the last maybe 6 months, I've been using this stuff, maybe a year of using this stuff. The new technology allows me to start stuff. It started a lot of things, but it really doesn't help me finish them. It's like I can get to the point where it's like working. Like I have a working application, for instance, that I created using ChatGPT or Cursor or Lovable or something like that. And it's working. So now I got to research and see now what do I do once it's working? How do I get it on the App Store? How do I protect it? What's up with the security? How do I get a database tied to it? It's like all this kind of like little stuff that if I had a teammate, they would just handle that because that's what they do. But now I'm trying to do everything. So I have a few things that I've started that are never going to get finished. I'm not going to finish them. The only way I finish them is that I give it to somebody and have them help me. And I think, and as I'm talking through this is what I feel like we're losing with this new technology is the collaboration, right? Everybody thinks they could do everything themselves. And I'm that guy. Like I do this whole podcast myself. Like I started, talking about, hey, why I do this, but I come up with the topics. I talk about the topics. I upload the video. I edit the video. I add the music. I add the animations if there's any. I add the graphics. I create the shorts. I upload the shorts to the different formats, and it's still not enough. Like it would be way better if I had help. It's almost when I'm looking over here, it seems like I'm looking at somebody that's helping me with this. But I'm not. It's just me. It's just like me in this whole space and these boards, and I have to do all this stuff. But this would be so much better if I had help. And I do understand that, but I don't have time to get help. That's the excuse most people get. I don't have time to get help. Or it's hard to find good help. So I don't get help. But I'm kind of like, maybe I'm saying it so it sounds terrible when I watch it back, that I probably need to go out there and get help. If anybody's watching this and they want to help me, reach out. But I just need, if I had somebody to help me come up with topics, to help me do editing, to do upload, to do social media. Like I said, I'm not doing this for the same reasons as most people, but still help will be much appreciated. And that's, I'm going to stop right there with that topic, but I want to go back, and I don't know how I'm going to edit this, right? But I want to go back to my original point, like, why do I do this? I do this podcast, number one, it's therapeutic. I do it because it's therapeutic. It's therapy for me to get out what I need to get out. Whether it's ideas, whether it's just thoughts on a topic, and it's just talking. So even though I'm a professor and when I go in class, I'm talking sometimes for 2 hours straight. It's on a certain specific topic, and there's other stuff that I just want to talk about that I don't have anybody to talk to about, right? So I'm just in a situation in my life where, I'm not in my hometown, so most of my, people I would usually talk to or somewhere else, and I just think I have topics that I don't know who would be interested in but me. So what I started doing, even before I started doing this podcast, I would just take my phone, I would hit record, and I know there's a million people out there to do the same thing. You take your phone, you have an idea, you have something you want to talk about, I just take the phone, hit record, and I just record myself talking, right? And sometimes I'll be talking for 45 minutes just to myself. And then I will watch it and wonder if anybody else would listen to this, right? And then I start getting into like, well, that's a podcast. And then I'm started to think, do I want to be a podcaster? And the answer was always no. Like, I don't want to be a podcaster, whatever that means, but I guess I'm a podcaster. But then it led me to think, is this a podcast? I don't think this is a podcast. Because when I learned about podcasts back when podcasts were first introduced for the iPod, right, before the iPhone even came out, it was audio only. It was more like a radio show. And it was or an interview, or they was talking about books. And And it's like, this is a new thing. Am I a streamer? Like, I don't want to be, and I don't like those labels, right? But I do it, number one, for therapy. It makes me feel better. I do it, number two, for content. Now, that makes me seem like I'm a content creator, which is another label that sounds like, like, do I want to be out there and like, what do you do? I'm a content creator, like, or I'm an influencer. Nah. I want to have content out there just in case something happens to me. There's stuff out there that is controlled that I've left to the world, or I've left to my family, or I've left to my son to watch if he starts to forget about me. And then I have stuff out there. I feel like a lot of the stuff I have out there is graphical, right? It's website designs. It's designs. It's like, it's things you can see. But it's nothing. Before then, I didn't have that much out there of me like speaking, even though my profession has me speaking a whole lot. But you know how I explained in my intro to design class, the power of graphic design is communication. So that's why, you know, I'm a visual communication designer. I use design to communicate visually, right? So if I wanted to communicate a message to a class, only the people in that class can hear my message, which is powerful. But if I wanted to get it out, that's where design comes in. That's where you put it on a poster. That's where you put it on a flyer. That's where you put it on a billboard. That's where you put it on an ad. Now that same message can be seen by more people. And that's another reason. That's the second reason why I do these podcasts. It's like I'll have a body of work, a collection of stuff that I know how the internet works. Like, it's forever out there. Even if I deleted my account and deleted all the videos, it's still out there if they wanted to get it. But, you know, it's just stuff out there, and it's like a legacy type of thing, right? But it's not for views, right? Nothing against people to do it for the views. But when I first started, I just thought podcasting, you need to get views. So I was like, in order to get views, you got to be consistent. So I was trying 2 days a week. That didn't work. Once a week, that didn't work. So it's almost to once a month now, because it's a lot. It's a lot that goes into coming up with a topic, doing the whole thing, getting in this room. Now this room has become way more popular. It's a public room. The students can use it. Every time I come in here, all the settings are changed. I gotta learn all this stuff. So in a sense, now I have this Black Magic console I need to learn. I have this Mixcast 4 console I have to learn. I have to learn about the new updates they do every time I come in here. I gotta do the settings of the cameras and the lighting. And now I'm the lighting person. I'm the camera person. I'm the hardware person. I'm the talent. I'm the designer. I created the logo. I created the music. And it's a lot. So then I was looking at podcasts and stuff, and maybe I was thinking about going the route of I think they call it the video essays. And I'm like, that seems too much like work. But I do this for therapy, for content. It's almost like journaling. It's almost like getting my thoughts out there in a video format. And the reason why I make it public is to hold myself accountable, because there's so many videos. I have so many videos of me talking to myself, and I don't have to hold myself accountable to my thoughts. And I just like to broadcast it because it's like, this might help. This might help one person, and that's why I'm a professor. If I can help one student, that's what it's all about. Like, if I teach 300 students and that one hits me up on LinkedIn and says, man, you helped me with this. You changed my life on this. I appreciate you. Boom. I'm like, that's what it's all about. That's like a recharge. It's like you give me extra years of just, you sticking a battery in my back. I'm ready to go. And it's the same thing with these podcasts. I'm doing these podcasts. It gets to the point where it's like, is anybody listening? I'm really rambling right now, but that's kind of like where I'm on, and why I haven't kind of put out something in maybe like a month and a half, because I'm in ramble mode. I'm in a ramble, scatterbrained spirit right now. But it's just like, so for instance, the reason why I came back in the booth right now is just getting over Thanksgiving break, and I went to my aunt's house like I do all the time in Ohio. And one of the first people I talked to was a friend of mine, Terry. And last year I told him about the podcast. And he did his due diligence. Shout out to Terry. He actually watches my podcast. And he was wondering, like, when's your next one? I like seeing them. They're interesting topics. And I'm like, boom, I got to do one. Because he's one. So what I'm going to do, I'm talking to him. So I get, nobody talks about their views and stuff, but whatever. I get like an average of 30, 35 views. That's what I get. But out of those 35, I'm thinking there may be like 2 or 3 people out there that watch consistently. I won't say those are my fans, but those are the people that tune in consistently. And I have to take it upon myself to say, hey, I'm talking to those 3 people. I'm talking to those 3 people, right? And I don't even need it to grow from there. That's really, I just think how we are is like, you could put something out there and only get 7 views. Like, you only have 7 views. Nah, like that's more views than you would have got if you was just talking to your phone or you just talking to your boy. Like 7 views is a lot if you want to think about it, right? So the reason why I do it is those things. I just had a couple of my good friends pass away, not to be morbid, but I'm like, I'm at that age where something can happen. I just want to have content out there that's positive, that represents myself, that 200 years from now, it could be seen and viewed, and it's actually something out there. It's actually data. As soon as I put up on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, it becomes data. I do understand that these words, this audio, this video, it all gets whittled down to ones and zeros in data. And that's how AI can peruse through videos and audio and documents and because it's all data, right? It's all just part of this data sphere, and I'm just contributing to the data that's in a video format and not in my typical graphical or even text format. So I just wanted to explain like why I do this and the other topic as far as I think the collaborative nature of just doing something great is going away, and I hope that after what should I name it? After the mass exodus from teams, because AI says you don't need 10 people, you can do it with 3. And then we see a bunch of mediocre to bad stuff. I just think that's what's going to happen. We're going to start seeing mediocre music. We're going to start seeing mediocre art. We're going to start seeing mediocre applications. We're going to start seeing mediocre fashion, because it's going to be one person or one team is going to be followed by one direction, and they're going to think it's great, and they're going to put it out there. And there's not going to be these checks and balances when they had a team. And then hopefully there's a bounce back. There's a recreate. There's a correction that happens that says, oh, you have to have a team. Now these teams will look different. Like the designer may not just be the sole designer of the team. The developer may have to do other things other than develop. And I think that's going to happen because of technology. So I can design something, pencil and paper, take it into Figma type of thing, and I can code it up. I can use AI to help front end code it. I can make it look how it's supposed to look, and then I hand it. And that was my superpower when I first, as my career, because I was the rare entity. I would say rare. I would say there's millions of people like me, no doubt. But at the time, I was that guy that can design and code. Okay, and I was an architectural studies major, so I had a different sensibility. Still have a different sensibility, a different outlook when it comes to being creative, because I did not start as an artist. I didn't start as an art major. Put it that way. I don't have a graphic design degree. I didn't learn graphic design from graphic designers. I learned graphic design on my own because I was an architectural studies major that didn't want to be an architect anymore. But being in architecture, it really taught me to be user first. You know, you can't design a building without thinking about the user. Like you got to think about the user when it comes to architecture, right? You have to. You got to make sure that doorway is big enough for human beings to get through it, right? Designing an app or website, not so much, right? But I brought that sensibility. So I think all my designs have always been very utilitarian, have been very engineered. And so going back to why I do this office hour tangents, right? I just thought I had something to add that was discussed in class, and then it was only privy to the people in class, whether it's 3 people or 20 people. And I thought, hey, other people might benefit from some of these conversations in class. And it started off like that, like just a continuation of the conversation. But what happens is, and what started happening with me is, you upload it, and all these social media, you upload to social media, YouTube social media, right? And how social media is structured is views, likes, engagement. How much time did they spend on it before they dipped out? Where did they come from? You start looking at all that stuff. And what it makes you start doing is designing for engagement, which I don't want to do, but I fell into that trap very early. Like, okay, boom, this first one got 30 views. How can I get it up to 40? What can I do to get 50? Oh, I did this one. This one got 100. What did I do differently on that? Then you start researching algorithms, and you start reaching over what's the hot terms, what's the topics. So most people, I won't say most people, you know, a lot of people, what I see on the podcast space where I'll be watching, where I'll watch often, it's just whatever the topic is of the day. What's the topic? So they'll go through news stories, they'll go through sports stories or whatever. And it's like, let's talk about the topic, because they have to put content out there. If you want to do this full time, you got to put content out there every day, right? At least twice a week. So that was my point, to try to get it out twice a week, or try to talk about topics that people are interested in. But I'm trying my best to just like stay within myself, talk about topics that touch my sensibilities, because I feel like there's at least a million people out there that are similar to me. That's how I think about everything. Like, if you have an idea, there's a million people out there that not necessarily had that idea, but will benefit from the idea. Just think of that. Like, there's a million people out there in the whole world, at least, which is not a lot when you think about the whole world. There's at least a million people that might want to hear what you have to say, or might want to participate in the thing you want to design. But once you start getting into the algorithm, you start designing for the algorithm. And once I started doing that, it started to feel like work. And I'm not in the market for a second job, at least that kind of second job. So I try to go back and just like, I'll come in here when I feel like coming in here. When I have something to talk about, I'll talk about it. I'm not going to force. I started coming in here and forcing myself to talk, because it's just time to talk. I haven't put anything up in a few days. I got to put something out in a few days. I got to talk about something to keep it relevant, so the algorithm doesn't forget about me. So, you know, the feed doesn't forget. And you started thinking about that, and it just stopped becoming fun. And I'm trying to get back to the fun. And for my 30th video, even if I post this, I think, you know, this is my 3rd one I've shot, and I haven't been happy with it. And that's just a result of exactly what I'm talking about. Striving for perfection. Thinking that the people watching are going to judge me. Right? You got to go through all this to be a public facing thing, where I should just post. You know, why don't I just go live? I thought about that. Why don't I just do these live? Which I might do. That might be phase 2. I'm thinking about gaming while I'm talking. We'll see what happens. But bottom line, I do this for therapy. And I'm starting to see with the technology just the lack of collaboration. So I'm trying to like work on both. I'm going to try to get help for this. So somebody that kind of wants to learn how to do some of this stuff, kind of like help them, because that's what I do. Like, you know, bring them along. and then, you know, just try to keep to why I'm doing this as therapy. It feels good to be in here. And I'm looking at the time, I'm like, it was getting a little long, but it's like, why am I here? I am here because it makes me feel good. It just makes me feel good. And as long as I keep it like that, I think I'll be fine, right? But I don't know if that's even possible because the camera's on and because of social media. I don't know. So again, enough of my rambling. This is my 30th, and maybe I'll release this down the line. That's not my 30th, because as I'm winding up, I'm gonna listen to it. But I'm like, I might do another one for my 30th. But yeah. Witness the mind of a scatterbrained, or witness how a scatterbrain looks. View into the brain of a scatterbrained individual. I don't even know how to brand it. But sometimes I'm very scatterbrained, and it's hard to kind of organize my thoughts. So I'm in here trying to organize my thoughts. Hopefully I organized it enough. Until next time, peace.